Good morning. Today is a Saturday, so we're gonna add one chapter to what we read today, 7 through 9. We're going to look at, and then on Monday we'll be looking at 10 through 14 or something. 10, it's a lot anyway, but we can quickly do them and get a little bit out of each chapter that way. We have worship tomorrow in person in Sutton at 9, and in our Savior's in McHenry at 10:30, and the service at Mabel will be on Facebook Live at 9 o'clock as well. You're welcome to join us live or in person, as always, for those services. As we look at these 3 chapters today, chapter 7 says, Moses has finished setting up the tabernacle. So it's set up and ready, and everything is made and done the way God had commanded. And then each of the 12 tribes of Israel brings an offering to the temple, to the Levites. And some of it is oxen and trailers, or wagons, I suppose they would call them, really. But these were some were given to the people that were in charge of moving the tabernacle, moving the tents, moving the poles, and moving everything. And so that as they moved things, they didn't carry everything, but they had wagons with oxen to pull them so that they could move when they would move. With the exception of the ones that carried the holy items, they were to be carried physically on their shoulders. So like the Gershonites got some, and the Maronites got some. The Kohathites got none, because they were the ones to carry the holy things, like the Ark of the Tabernacle that was on the poles so that they could carry it, and they carried it on their shoulders as they moved. And you think about that as they, it was nice they didn't move every day to have to carry all of that and to pack it all up. But as we read on through these chapters, we'll find, it'll say that, sometimes it was, every day they moved, and sometimes it was 2 days or a month or longer. So they would, but they were a nomadic tribe during this time of wandering in the wilderness. And that's just that reminder that this book is called, in some ancient Hebrew scriptures, in the wilderness as the time of their wandering. But the leaders present their offerings, and the first day it was Nashon, son of Abinadab, and each day these offerings are the same. And as I was reading through, it's day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, and I'm thinking in my mind as I'm reading through that, day 7, the Sabbath, maybe they won't, but no, they did. 12 days in a row, they offered this offering to God, to the Levites, to the temple, and each offering from each of the tribes was an identical offering. It was a silver plate weighing 130 shekels, a silver basin was weighing 70 shekels, filled with flour with oil, and a golden dish and filled with incense, a bull, a ram, a male lamb, and so each of these 12 offerings was identical, and because this is what the Lord had required from each of them as we were going on. And so when we get to verse 84 of chapter 7, this was the dedication for the offering at the time when it was anointed by the leaders of Israel. So the tent, the tabernacle, is set up for the first time, and the offerings are all made, and then it gives the total number of all of the offerings that were given. And then in verse 89, Moses goes into the tent to speak to the Lord, because the voice was speaking to him, it says, from above the mercy seat that was on the Ark of the Covenant. And God said to Moses then in verse 8, tell Aaron, when you set the lamps up, set them this way. And again, more instructions from God as to setting up the tabernacle and the place of worship, the place of the Holy of Holies, and everything involved that way. And then the remainder of chapter 8, a good share of chapter 8 then refers to the sanctification or the consecration of the Levites for service, the rite of purification, the rite of ordination, we may call it today. But they were to, verse 7, thus you shall do to them to cleanse them, sprinkle the water of purification on them, have them shave their whole body with a razor, wash their clothes so that they are clean. And then, go on with this ceremony that God prescribes for this sin offering. You bring all these Levites in, and the people will lay hands on them, setting them aside. And this way the Levites are accepted by God in place of the firstborn of every family. The Levites take that place, and within that they have the responsibility, the honor of being the leaders of worship as well. And they are made, it says, as an elevation offering. They are lifted up to God that way. And, we lift up our voices to God. We lift up our prayers to God. Excuse me. But so the Levites are somewhat, they're set apart, from the other Israelites. Not that they live differently or anything, but they are set for service to God. And, verse 16, God says, they are unreservedly given to me from amongst the Israelites. I have taken them in place of all that open the womb, the firstborn. And this idea of the firstborn belonging to God comes somewhat through the Passover and other things that God has stipulated. And we just talked about, the Nazarites, the Nazarenes and stuff, and the consecration. And so, when the Nazarite was pledged to God, they were not to shave. But here the Levites, in order for their rite of purification, and this first rite of purification of all of them, they were shaved, head to toe, basically, and according to what God had commanded. And verse 23, I chuckled when I read, it says, the Lord said to Moses, this applies to the Levites from the time they are 25 years old and upward until they are 50. From this 25-year span, these Levites will perform the priestly duties. And after the age of 50, they will retire from the duty. They will serve no more. However, they can assist. It says they shall perform no service, but they may assist the brothers in the tent of carrying out their duties. So, after they get to be 25, this mandatory age of retirement for them, they could assist, but they couldn't officiate that way. And I thought, in our world today, for years as I was growing up, the retirement age was 65, or 62 was early retirement. And some places, with a combined age of 85, the rule of 85, you could retire early if you had so many years of experience in this and that. But now the retirement age has kind of gone up, it's, 67 is the full retirement age, and, 70 is when you can draw your full Social Security benefits and all of that. But yeah, we're living longer today than, ancient Israel, they lived like Methuselah, just tremendous number of years. But, in the times when we get into the Psalms, it's, average life is 70 by reason of strength, maybe 80 or 90. But, so our lifespans again now are a little bit longer. So then chapter 9 talks about keeping the Passover. And it's, in the first month on the 14th day, you would observe the Passover. And that was, on the first month, on the 14th day was when they observed the original Passover as they were freed then from slavery in Egypt. And there were some of the Israelites that, this is a mandatory deal to observe the Passover. But if you were unclean, or if you were, traveling and gone, you couldn't do it. If you had touched a deceased body, you know, you couldn't. And so they come and they ask, well, what about us? You know, and so Moses goes to God. He says, well, let me go ask God. And I mean, good idea to ask God a lot of times for stuff. But he goes and asks God, and God says, if they can't do it on the first month on the 14th day, do it on the second month on the 14th day. You know, and it's, you know, God makes provisions for his people. And God still does that today. I mean, he makes provisions for us. I mean, he gave us his son. He gave us Holy Communion. He gave us the you know, this is my body, this is my blood. You are forgiven. You are welcome. He gave us baptism. And you know, it's just, he continues to work for the good of the people. And like as I said earlier, we lift up our voices in prayer and praise. So that's the way, you know, God is just always there for us.